forward! Yeah!
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second MLB episode of M2M Baseball Content. My name is Kapoor. We've got a new face joining us today, Justin Diament, the big Mets fan here, coming in to talk some baseball with me. How you doing, Justin?
Doing pretty good. Glad to be here.
Great. So last night was the All-Star game. The All-Star break festivities have been going on for the past few days. The All-Star game, the AL, I believe, won 5-2. Shohei Ohtani is the winning pitcher. Vladdy Jr. is the MVP. You see those pictures on Twitter of like Vladdy Jr. as like a kid with his dad at the All-Star game. Then he's holding up the MVP bat after hitting that. That was a rocket. That was like 462 feet. That was because he didn't want to do the home run derby, so he saved it.
Yeah.
Instead of doing it off a BP pitcher, he did it off of Corbin Burns, one of the best starters in the NL. So that was great. You love to see Ohtani and Vladdy shining there. In the home run derby, of course, we got to talk about Pete Alonso, who I said that it was kind of a fluke that he beat Vladdy Jr. last year or 2 years ago, and he comes up.
Not a fluke no more, eh?
And he's not a fluke anymore. He just was mashing baseballs. And Salvador Perez got a bit of a rough draw there in the first round. I think Perez had like 27 homers.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But Alonso hit 35, and then Alonso beat Soto and Mancini, who was a surprise to me that he made the finals. So, Justin, what do you think about Alonso winning the home run derby, making this great showing? Do you think maybe something will transfer to production going forward?
I sure hope it does. And I do think that, we've heard a lot in the past from guys like Aaron Judge about, accusing the home run derby of screwing up their swing and, taking them out of it, maybe either tiring their arm out or making them just, feel too inclined to swing for home runs down the stretch. But I think there's something to the fact that maybe if you're not hitting as well as you might hope, it could do the opposite. I know actually Juan Soto, I think, said he wanted to participate in the derby because he thought it could get him right. And Pete's been pretty good the first half of the season, but the one thing that's been ironically missing was the home runs. Not quite up to the number of home runs you'd expect from a guy who hit 53 as a rookie. So I think that if anything, this could really help him out, at least get him some confidence because he looked like the most confident man in the world out there at the derby, bobbing his head along to whatever song was playing in his head and calling timeout to hype up the fans. And, obviously just proving again how elite of a power hitter he is. I think it could definitely help him down the stretch. And yeah, I would agree about, I didn't expect to see Mancini in the finals either. Great story. And he put on a real show there in the finals. He put a scare on Alonso at least there for a bit until he went on that huge run in extra time. And I will say Perez was dealt a pretty tough draw there. Not only did did he have to play Alonso in the first round, but they kind of interviewed Alonso during his whole
I remember that. I thought that was
initial
fun.
3 minutes. That was a little whack. The whole ESPN production was not the greatest, but and I do wish in future years perhaps the head-to-head is interesting because you get to aim for a certain number, try and beat it. That's exciting. But on the other hand, he hit 27, which excluding Soto and Ohtani in extra time was the second highest number and didn't advance to the second round. So I like the idea of maybe having the 4 highest advance to the second round and then the 2 highest advance to the finals after the second round. But overall, really fun night. Just got to watch some guys hit the ball to the moon. Pete Alonso really made the whole event. Even trying to speak objectively as not a Mets fan, he just totally not only took it seriously but brought all the fans into it. Thought it was great.
Yeah, he knows that that's his thing. Like you said, he was hyping up the fans. Like this is his thing. He's going back to back, he's just showing that he is one of the premier power guys in the league. And in BP, he can get it done. We'll have to see if he can do it in the second half here of this season. For baseball, I'm a Nats fan. I don't want the Mets to be good, but you got to hope that he turns it on just so because baseball needs that kind of swag and that kind of power. Getting back into it. And I think also talking about the Soto Ohtani matchup, that was definitely one that I think everyone thought Ohtani was going to win. I thought Ohtani was going to win too. Soto put a ball 520 feet, the farthest in the Derby, which is insane. But that one ended in a swing off. Soto went 3 for 3 in the swing off, hit 3 homers, and then Ohtani grounded his first pitch. And I mean, you saw like Otani, like he was chill, like he was like he wanted to win or do well, but he was like chilling. So like you gotta love it. Like he wasn't taking anything too seriously, which is cool.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, he was the one guy there. All the baseball players wanted to meet.
Yeah.
I think it was forget which player it was that I think it was who closed for the American League. It was in the All-Star game. It was the White Sox closed.
Oh, it was Hendricks?
Yeah, Hendricks. He said after the game, like, hey, I feel bad for Otani because everybody's constantly trying to speak to him and meet him, but hey, I feel bad for him, but I'm not stupid. I asked for his autograph as well. He's like, yeah, I get it, man. It may imagine pretty tiring weekend for Shohei Otani, but as one of the new faces of baseball, along with perhaps Tatis, his teammate Trout, and I don't know, maybe Vlad Jr. I think he's doing an amazing job, and glad to see him, showing up to the All-Star game and making it exciting.
Yeah. Another one of the good stories from the All-Star game was Freddie Freeman's kid, like telling him a couple months into the season, like, you're hitting 220, you have to hit better, so I can go to the All-Star game and meet Fernando Tatis Jr. And then he was like, is that the only reason why you want me to do better? And then the kid was like, yeah. And I mean, Tatis Jr. is awesome, so I don't blame him there. And I think just talking about like getting tired or something like that, like Otani, obviously, like I don't expect him to play up to the same level that he is. I mean, people talk about after the All-Star break, players regressing a little bit, but that's kind of natural regression when it comes to players who have been so hot in the first half. It might not necessarily be causation of playing in the All-Star game or playing the Home Run Derby. It might just be natural wear and tear, stuff like that. But someone like Vladdy Jr., whose expected stats are playing up to his actual stats, like his expected slugging percentage is 625. He's slugging around that. I mean, maybe not exactly that high. I'm not 100% sure, but he's playing up to his expected stats, which I mean, the logical jump there is that he is this is not a smoke and mirrors kind of breakout. I mean, you can just look at him and you can be like, okay, this guy's the real deal, right? So I think Vladdy's going to be fine. I mean, people saying maybe it was a good idea to not do the Derby, maybe hold on to that kind of the swing that he's got and maybe not try to mess it up. We'll see what happens. I think, like you were saying with Alonso, I think Juan Soto, he's like, I got to learn how to hit homers again, and this will help me. I mean, if that was the case, I feel like he could just do that in BP. Doesn't need the Derby, but whatever, maybe.
Yeah, I guess it's almost like the pressure of the event. You might hope that when you get out there in the zone with all the fans, it's it's kind of a hard thing to emulate. Where you say like a pitcher, who if you're pitching to your hitters in a simulated game, it should theoretically be the same as the real game as long as your hitters are up to snuff. But it's not really the same in the end. The pressure brings it out of you. At least you would hope.
Yeah, definitely. And I think just we're going to go into a couple predictions for the second half. But I do have to say, Kumar Rocker going as late as he did is just ridiculous. And it makes me mad. Look, we were talking about this earlier, and you were like, I don't think Kumar Rocker is going to fall to some team that drafted way earlier than the
Mets. I definitely did not.
He fell all the way to the Mets, and that's just ridiculous.
Yeah, a couple of my friends who don't know as much about the draft process, but certainly knew Rocker's name, were just incredulous. Like, how'd the Mets get him? And I had to go through, all the dumb, boring explanation about the salary limits and he didn't have the greatest year at Vandy, inconsistent fastball velocity, and they're like, okay, who cares? He's Kumar Rocker. Why didn't he go top 3? And I'm like, okay, I mean, yeah. I'm happy he fell to the Mets.
Yeah, I'm definitely one of those guys. I am not big on the whole draft process when it comes to the MLB. And NFL, like, kind of maybe because rookies have more of an impact immediately. But for me, like, the MLB draft isn't really that big of a thing. But I mean, I looking on like Twitter about it. Like, I think Marcus Stroman was talking about him on Twitter. He was excited about the pick, and I think he's one of the more. I don't know. You can correct me if I'm wrong. Is he one of the more MLB ready pitchers in the draft?
Yeah, he's considered as such because he went to college as opposed to a high school pitcher or a high school position player. and he's got the frame for it. He spent a few years at Vanderbilt, played in 2 College World Series, was the MVP of 1. So yeah, again, he had one of the reasons he fell to 10 is he had a fairly inconsistent year. They didn't see the breaking pitch development they might have hoped. A little bit of inconsistency on the fastball, and of course it was 1 game, but a fairly poor performance in the most recent College World Series. But if everything goes right, if he can, right those errors, get the fastball consistent, develop a better secondary pitch, and keep working on his changeup, which actually did come along pretty well, he, in theory, could debut in September-ish of next season. And even if he makes like a normal trajectory, spring training of the season after that, which is, I think, one of the reasons the Mets are so excited about him as a team built to contend now and in the next few years. In theory, if everything goes right with him, he could be a part of that, which you don't always get to say about players you take in the MLB draft during a contention window.
Yeah, so that's definitely one of the better picks in the draft. I haven't really gone over anything else with the draft. I know the Nats got like Brady House or something. He's a high school kid, so he probably won't be. I don't know. I don't know if they're thinking of him as their third baseman. He probably will be part of the plans going forward in the far future, not necessarily in the near future as a high schooler. So we're gonna wrap up in a minute here, but first, what we're gonna do is we're gonna get a couple bold predictions, maybe some hot takes from you, Justin, about the second half. What do you think is going to go down in the second half? Do you think, just playoffs wise, any surprise teams like the Giants maybe falling off, something like that? What do you think?
I think you actually kind of read my mind. I was going to bring up the Giants. The thing is, I've continuously said that I think the Giants are going to fall, so I can't consider this a huge hot take. That I think at some point that talent is going to catch up with the Giants. The Dodgers and the Padres are going to catch up, and I said that over and over, and here they are, the All-Star break with the best record in baseball. So still been wrong about that, but they are powered by primarily veterans and especially veteran hitters. Guys like Crawford still chugging along at shortstop, Buster Posey. Just a lineup of guys who weren't necessarily expected to do what they're doing. And I don't want to discredit them anymore considering the immense success of the Giants, but it's a long season of baseball, 162 games. Nobody played those games last year. And the Giants as a team that's not exactly full of young talent who doesn't have a lot of tread on their tires, I would think that maybe they're going to slip a little down the stretch. And perhaps even by their own design, they'll simply rest a few guys in hopes of keeping them ready for the postseason, because there's some, of course, to take that division, to stay ahead of the Dodgers and Padres, they would really have to continue to keep this up. They're only 2 games ahead of the Dodgers, despite, having the best record in the league. But just to make the postseason, they could drop off a pretty good bit and still keep that second wild card. So if things go a little bit south and, they end up behind the Giants, behind the Dodgers or the Padres, I could see them taking their, foot off the throttle just a little to keep those guys nice and ready. I believe even like Posey got hurt recently, I believe, when they had to move over to Joey Bart. So perhaps a little bit of that already peaking out, guys breaking down a little bit. I think the Giants can fall down a bit. But to make a more, a hotter take than just, oh, wow, the Giants might come in second behind the Dodgers, which I think is something a lot of people might say. I think that the Reds are going to give the Brewers a run for their money in the NL Central. I actually quite like the Brewers with their 3 all-star starters, but I think that some of the bats on the Brewers, there is some room to grow there. If Christian Yelich turns around, maybe their bats will end up even better. But guys like who's the shortstop they just traded for from the Rays? His name is Adames. Yeah, I think Willie Adames. He's had a fantastic stretch since getting traded. I don't think he's going to necessarily keep that up. In some of their recent series, they got some pretty timely hitting from guys whose averages aren't or their stats just aren't all that high. Keston Hiura is not having a particularly great season. I think Omar Narvaez is having an all-star quality year, but, a catcher who hasn't done that before, another player who might break down a bit in the second half. I think the Reds are going to start to, get some increased production from a few of their starters. And, I saw Sonny Gray was coming around a bit before the All-Star break. So was Castillo. And, they're getting a MVP quality year from Nick Castellanos
And
Jesse Winker.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had a pretty poor last month, I believe, but he could easily return to that MVP form. And I think it's going to be a race between those two teams down the stretch in the NL Central.
Yeah, definitely. I think the Reds are definitely an interesting pick. Sonny Gray was placed on the IL before the All-Star break. I'm hoping, as a Sonny Gray fantasy owner, this is like a phantom IL stint, just because he wouldn't have another turn in the rotation. Maybe they were trying to manipulate their roster somehow by putting him on the IL. Hopefully that was the case, because he turned in two very good starts right before the All-Star break, and Castillo has been a lot better in the, I think, last month and a half before the All-Star break. And then obviously the Reds lineup, I think you put it up next to the Brewers, and the Reds lineup is clearly better. The Brewers are they're buoyed by their starting pitching. I mean, Woodruff is, other than DeGrom, I think the best pitcher in the National League. And I think Burns has fallen off a little bit. He's less effective. Maybe it's the sticky stuff. Maybe not. Who knows? But he's still great. And then Freddie Peralta is having one of the great breakout seasons this year as well. So for me, I think that my World Series pick earlier before the season was the Padres and the White Sox. And I don't think the White Sox are making it anymore. I think they've been hit a bit too hard by injury. Maybe Eloy comes back, maybe Luis Robert comes back, but I don't know if they're going to be as good as they were. Unfortunately, it's not a bold prediction, but I think the Astros are going to make the World Series again. I don't like it, but you know what? It's fine. But I think the Padres are still going to make it. They're also dealing with some injuries. Everyone's dealing with injuries. That's not really a bold prediction. I think for me, my bold prediction is going to be that I think I don't know if this is bold, but I think we're going to see a 40-40 season by Tatis, and we're going to see a triple crown by Vladdy Jr. That's
Triple crown.
Yeah.
How close is he to first in each of those categories right now?
For the he's just gotta take Ohtani in homers. I think
Wow. I didn't realize. I think he could definitely do that. I was gonna say earlier. I mean, Ohtani. The thing about him is that if not for the fact that he's such a two-way player, I think the story around Ohtani would be that if we simply extrapolate his pace, he's on pace to break Roger Maris' mark. But that said, you were talking about earlier how maybe this is a little unsustainable, especially for a guy who's trying to pitch every sixth day, and just going through a whirlwind of a season where he's become maybe the most famous baseball player on the planet. I think there's a good chance that he comes back there just a little bit as far as the home run hitting in the second half, and Vlad showed just how good he could be at that in the All-Star game. And so I think he's definitely a guy who you could expect to keep that up. So yeah, I might agree with you there that Vlad could definitely make a run at the Triple Crown. Would definitely make for an interesting, MVP race between him and Ohtani. The second guy to win the Triple Crown in 50 years, or the insane two-way player who just hit 55 homers.
Yeah, and I mean for Ohtani, talking about going down the stretch, you got to think the Angels are going to want to somehow prioritize his pitching, just because
they need it. Yeah,
because they need it. I think you don't want to take away the bat. The bat, he has 33 homers, like by far the most in the league. I think Vladdy trails him by 5. Tatis trails him by 5. But he's been really, really effective as a pitcher. He's had one clunker of a 2/3 of an inning start against the Yankees where he gave up 7 runs, and that's it. You get the command and order for Ohtani. He's got the devastating, I believe it's a devastating sinker. And then he pumped 100 in the All-Star game. I mean, he probably sits around 95, 96 in normal game situations. But if the Angels aren't going to get any starting pitching, I think they are a team that still thinks they got a shot at the playoffs. And so I think Joe Madden is going to try to prioritize Ohtani's pitching. I don't know if that's going to be a detriment to his hitting or not. That remains to be seen. We haven't seen him be this effective on both sides of the ball yet. We haven't seen anyone do that. I mean, obviously since Babe Ruth, right? So it'll be an interesting storyline to watch. And I also think a dark horse MVP candidate is going to be Nick Castellanos. He's on pace to have, I think the most hits in the league. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Right now, or no, Adam Frazier has more, but Adam Frazier has 115 hits. Castellanos has 111.
Future Met Adam Frazier, perhaps.
I mean, maybe. Who knows?
You don't seem excited about this possibility.
I don't seem excited about the Mets getting any better. We don't need
I wonder
that.
why.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't anybody be excited about the Mets getting better? But that said about Castellanos, of course, that brings us over to the National League MVP race. So, as far as that race, do you think that, I mean, of course, anything could happen in terms of players getting hurt or players coming out of nowhere with a giant second half. But at this point, do you think it's really between anyone who has a chance besides Castellanos, Tatis Jr., and Jacob deGrom? Or is there anyone else you like for that, or just them three, top three?
I think honestly, deGrom and Tatis are in a tier above. My point on Castellanos is that, I mean, if you're looking for a high low risk high reward bet, Castellanos is going plus 3,000 for the MVP.
Oh wow, that might be what I might take.
Yeah, I mean, if you truly think it's going to be MVP, I mean, he has one of the highest averages in the league. I mean, I'm reading he might be on pace for 60 doubles. And I mean, if we see the Reds, make a late run, maybe that will influence some of the voting, and Castellanos is a big part of that. You never know. But I mean, the plus 3,000 bet is really good for a player that is in the top 3 as of now in NL MVP votes in my mind. And deGrom's battled injury stuff all year. Tatis has battled injury stuff all year. I mean, with Tatis, he's done what he's done, and he's played less games than everyone, right? But there's that he has that shoulder that one bad swing, and I don't want this to happen, obviously, but one bad swing and he might be out for a while. And deGrom, he's left a couple of starts with injuries. So
absolutely.
I'm not that much of a betting man, but that would be one of the low risk, high reward bets that you might want to look into. So with that, Justin, you got anything to say about bold predictions, hot takes, anything like that?
See any other bold predictions? This isn't really specific to any division, but I think a lot of divisions where just in general where people have maybe perhaps called it for a particular team. I think some teams are gonna just the general second place teams are gonna make some runs here. I think some teams you might not expect are gonna be buyers at the deadline, maybe foolishly. But I think some of these division races are gonna end up not necessarily closer in terms of total game difference, but different, or get closer in terms of the sort of the image that you have people see the division by the end of the year. I feel like a lot of divisions, say like the White Sox and the AL Central, for example, are just kind of seen as they're the first place team. That's how it's going to be. I still think the White Sox are going to the playoffs in that particular instance, but I think a lot of divisions are just going to end up a lot closer and having some nice runs down the stretch, even though it might not appear quite like that right now.
Do you think the Twins' season is dead, or do you think they have some kind of chance?
I think the Twins are dead, especially since I think the Twins are going to be sellers. I think that they're going to sell. I think they're going to sell Nelson Cruz. I think they're good chance that they sell off the salary of Josh Donaldson. And
he might be a Met, right?
He might. I don't think so, just because the fit with his contract, moving up in the next couple of years, when unfortunately we still have Robinson Cano on the books, is a little bit of a rough fit, but he might. But yeah, I think that Nelson Cruz is as good as gone. I think that Josh Donaldson will probably be sold based on the contract, and I think that if they don't value him too highly, that other teams get off the phone. Jose Urias might be going to. See, I think that the Twins are doomed because they're far enough behind that they're going to choose to be sellers.
Yeah, definitely the Twins they've got a rough draw of it. I mean, Buxton has gotten a couple of freak injuries, and he's just been sensational when he's on the field. And then he had that hand thing. And then he came back. He broke his hand, and he's out. And then he came back again, and he got injured again. So definitely
unfortunate. He's made a glass.
Definitely unfortunate for the Twins there. But with that will do it for our second episode of MLB Content on the M2M Network. I am Khalin Kapoor. I was hosting, joined by Justin. Justin, thank you for for joining me. Hopefully, we are going to do this again soon. I definitely love talking some baseball. As the second half rolls on, we'll get some more episodes out to you guys. And once again, thank you for watching and have a good one.